Hi guys, Andy Henderson live from Forward Thinking. I'm your Sherpa guide. This is Sherpa Guidance episode 29. Great to be here, great to see you all on board the Sherpa Guidance train. So today is all about keeping the main thing, because the main thing is always to keep the main thing. And it's all about overwhelm. It's all about, that feeling that we get sometimes with business owners when we're just trying to do all the stuff. There's so many things coming at us from all different angles. Employees, customers, directors, family stuff. And, before you know it, you're in this whole world of pain. And it's really difficult to get out of that state. So, and I know it's something that a lot of my forward thinkers, a lot of, people that I talk to in business, a lot of people suffer from this. And it's especially prevalent when we may have a pint at the pub on a Friday and we have a good chat about how the week's been. And it's like, a lot of business owners are just pleased it's over so they can stop and take stock and just reduce that feeling of overwhelm by just having a chat and just being out of work and all that sort of stuff. But there is a better way. There's a better way to solve it. I mean, it reminds me, like I said on Monday's live, there's times in the past, the not too distant past when I felt pretty poor. I felt very, very overwhelmed, especially in my corporate career. I took over the business as MD, and it was failing. And that first year as MD was the worst year of my life. I absolutely felt overwhelmed. I felt like a fish out of water. I had imposter syndrome. I felt like I had to tell everyone what to do. I had to have all the answers. This enormous pressure was on me. Pressure to perform for my family, to keep a roof over their head. Pressure to perform for my employees. Pressure to perform for my customers. Pressure to perform for my board. Pressure to perform for my the owner of the business as well. And, it was a really tough time and things weren't going right. Things weren't going to plan. And when you're feeling overwhelmed and things aren't going to plan, it compounds the issue. It's like compound interest. It makes everything 10 times worse. And there was that particular day on the 7th of January 2013, 7 minutes past 9 in the morning, when I just literally had my head in my hands and I'm sat there, after Christmas, after the year end, just thinking, Jesus, I'm going to have to either leave a 20-year career, get fired from a 20-year career, or check into hospital, because I just felt flipping terrible about it. So I wanted to just share with you some stuff about overwhelm and maybe what you can do about it to reduce that feeling of overwhelm. And it's largely about keeping the main thing. What's the one big domino? What's the one thing that if you bulldozed it or capitalised on it, that everything will start to make more sense. The overwhelm will reduce and you're free to tackle the other problems and the opportunities that you face in your business. So I'm going to wade right in. So as usual on Wednesdays, I like to give you kind of a bit of a framework to work to that you can take away from the live and apply and implement potentially in your own business or in your own life as well. So I've got some slides, so we're just going to wade straight into those. So there's the title. Help! I'm overwhelmed. And yeah, I make light of it. I've been there and I've come through it, and I know the actions to take to reduce that feeling. And I'm not making fun of it at all. I think it's a very important topic, and it can screw with our mental health. It can screw with our physical health. It can screw with the relationships that we've got amongst all these different groups of people that we serve when we're a business owner. Our family, our friends, our customers, our employees, our board. We've got a lot of people that we're working with, and we need to be at the best. We need to be optimally performing. We don't want, our heads to feel like a washing machine with a bunch of trainers clanking around. We don't want that. We want to feel clear and full of belief and confidence and, in flow, that state of flow when you've got momentum and things are just working for you. So that's where we want to be. So what's this overwhelm all about? Well, before we get into that, you know me by now, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I'm Andy Henderson, your Sherpa guide. And, I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to impact the lives of 25,000 business owners in year 10 of my business. And, things are moving closely to that. I'm still a long way away, but every single day, I feel like I'm making progress. It's a great thing. I follow what I teach. I implement what I speak to you guys about and the questions that I ask, and we do it. And, one of the core philosophies that I have is starting at the end and work backwards. And when we don't know what the end is, when we don't know what our destination is, we don't know what we're trying to do or where we're trying to go or why we're doing it, it leads us into lots of different directions. Distraction, shiny thing syndrome. We're chasing after stuff and it's wasting loads of time, effort, energy and money. And we don't want that. What we really want to do is we want to find and really define that destination, where we want to be in the future. who we want to be with, who we're going to become in that process, and point all that effort, energy and time and money and all that stuff, all our resources, we want to point it in that direction. We want to go laser guided right for the top of the mountain. That's exactly where we want to go, because once you've defined where you are and once you've defined where you're trying to get to, that's when the magic happens. That's when you get a feeling of fulfillment, because when you've got a purpose, when you understand why you want to go there and what's going to happen when you're there, and you can feel like you're making progress because you've got those 2 points to measure, start point and destination, you feel like you're making progress towards that point. So without further ado, what's overwhelm? So you can see on the screen, one of the biggest problems facing business owners is overwhelm. It's just feeling like we've got so much going on, too many things to do in too short amount of time, and it leads to a sense of feeling out of control. It's not a good place to be. But let me ask you a question, or a few questions. As you can see, as a business owner, as a board director, as a solopreneur, micro business, medium-sized business, large business, whatever, if you're a CEO or an MD, what is your role and responsibility as a business owner? What do you think it actually is? But what is it actually? What is it? My role is to grow my business so I can have financial freedom and sell it and all. No. You've got more responsibilities. You've got a bigger role. You've got people to serve, customers, employees. You've got a family. You've got a board of directors. Your role is to motivate, inspire, and guide others to be great, to be greater tomorrow than they were today. And how can you do that when you're feeling overwhelmed? When you're feeling this overwhelmed, what is it that you need to really focus on right now? What is the big thing? What are you going to do first? And how do you know it's the right thing? It's difficult, because when you've got all this stuff flying at you from all angles and your head's like a washing machine with a bunch of trainers in it, we struggle with that stuff. So some of the symptoms of being overwhelmed, and these are the telltale signs really. You're exhausted, you're tired all the time, you're frustrated, you feel like you're fighting every day, fighting people, fighting your employees, fighting your customers, fighting your family, fighting all these things. I'm overwhelmed, I can't cope. Stop talking to me, stop asking me questions, Andy. All this sort of stuff. Your poor performance starts to drop, you can't think straight. You're always at work, whether you're physically at work or at home thinking about work. Your presence is not where it's supposed to be. We've got poor culture at work potentially. Nothing seems to go right. You're going out less, socialising with the people that you love, doing the things that you love to do, because you just don't have the headspace to do it. You can't sleep. Your sleep might suffer in the evening. Your health might be suffering as well. And truth be told, when you look at it, your relationships are suffering. Friends, family, customers, employees, board. It's not a good place. But there is an answer. There is something we can do. But first of all, we need to understand the different components that we're dealing with as owners and MDs and CEOs and stuff. We've got customers that we need to serve. They need us. They need us to carry on going, because they've got the problems and pains that we solve. And we love doing that. We love solving customers' problems and pains. That's why we're in business, because we've identified a problem that's turned into a pain and we've got a solution to solve it. We've got our employees that we need to look after, because, you've got employees in your business. That's a great weight on your shoulders of making sure, not only are they inspired and motivated and performing, but actually, they've got houses, they've got families, they've got children. They need to put food on the table, they need to pay the mortgage and stuff. They need to do all these things. These are human beings. We've got to look after them. We've got relationships with our partner, our husband or our wife. When we're working till 8 o'clock at night, and when we get home, we're thinking about work till 10 o'clock, then we go to sleep. We're not looking after their needs. We're not able to service them correctly. Look after them and love them and cherish them and be grateful. And children as well. We miss the football, we miss the swimming, we miss the horse riding. When we're feeling overwhelmed, we just don't want to do this stuff, and it's not a great place to be. And of course, you've got a board of directors as well that probably work with you, and they can sense that you're overwhelmed, but they've got more questions than answers. They need you to be on top form. It's a really difficult place to be, being an owner. It can be quite lonely. So how do you fix it? What can you do? Well, with the best will in the world, you can't fix all this stuff all at once. You just can't fix everything all at once, because that'll lead to more overwhelm, and we don't want that. But what you can do is start to make progress to fix one thing at a time. And that one thing is going to be the main thing, because the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. That's super important. So we've got to try and figure out what the main thing is. So how do we do it? Well, we use this kind of framework. What's the problem? What's the solution? What's the outcome? Because I always say this, guys. I always say that in every single business I've worked with, every single business owner has had all the answers. Yeah, sure, I've had to give them some stories, some analogies, some different questions that maybe pry into a different part of their brain to get the right answer out. But we've all got the right answers. So if you sat there feeling overwhelmed, I've got your back. You've got the answers. You know what to do. I'm just going to give you a bit of a framework to do that. Hi guys, thanks for tuning in. We're just talking about overwhelm today. It's a tough one because as business owners we feel it. So I'm trying to guide people through a bit of a solution to working through a bit of a framework. So I use this quite often. In fact, most days of the week I use this exact way of working with not only myself, but with the people, the customers that I serve as well. What is the problem? What's the main thing? What's the solution? Because we know what the answer is. We know how to fix this stuff. We're not daft. We know what the answer is. So what's the solution? How do we fix that problem? And once we know how to fix it, if we fix it, what's the positive outcome? So identify the problem, identify the solution, and then identify what's going to happen as a positive result of you fixing that solution, putting that solution in place and fixing the problem. So you can write all this stuff down. That's a really key place to start. But first of all, if you're going to attempt this, you need to just take a deep breath and take stock. Just take stock of what's going on. Let your brain, stop spinning for a second. Maybe take some deep breaths. There's one thing that Brendan Burchard teaches in his book, High Performance Habits, really good. Before you transition from one job and one place or one activity to the next, just sit there and breathe and say to yourself, release, release, release over and over again, and it changes your state and it gets you ready for the next transition. So just take a deep breath, get into it. And then the next thing is, when you think about all this overwhelm, everything that's going on, just write everything down. Just write it all down. Just go bonkers. Just get 10 bits of paper and write down everything that's going on. Write down everything that's in your head. Just that one exercise on its own will bring you clarity. It'll take everything out of your head, all that clutter, all those trainers clanking around like a bunch of bloody trainers in a washing machine going clunk, 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 clunk. Write everything down. If you're feeling overwhelmed, get it all written down. Explain everything. Just put it on paper. So at least you can start to make sense of it. It's out of here and it's on paper. So that's going to give you clarity on its own. Then the next thing is search through your notes. Search through all your notes and find the big thing. Find the big domino. Find the one thing, the main thing that's the main thing that's the main thing. Find that main thing, and it's typically the thing. If you imagine the bunch of problems that you have, that you think you have, it's kind of like a Christmas tree. There's one that sits on top like a fairy, and it's that one that we have to tackle first. It might be the biggest, it might be the ugliest, but that's the one. That's the one that everything else hangs off. If you fix that one thing, everything else starts to get easier and simpler. And by the time you get to the bottom of the Christmas tree, they're just tasks that you need to tick off and do. Done. So define the main thing. Again, something that Brendan Burchard talks about is the main thing is always to keep the main thing the main thing. So when we're talking about the main thing, it could be something related to your customers. They might be complaining, there might be quality issues or whatever's going on. It might be your employees, they're not engaged, they're not performing, they're not doing the stuff that they signed up for, and you're frustrated with that, they just don't get it. It could be your board of directors frustrated, they're all moving in different directions, they just don't see the bigger picture. It could be your relationship with your husband or wife, it could be your children, but think about what is the main thing that's causing the biggest pain right now for you. So get that defined. Maybe even create a list. If you've got 10 things that are going on in your head, create that list, prioritise them, get number one at the top, and just look at the first three maybe. So just pick the first one, the main thing that's the main thing, and then just sit there and think about it. If I was to fix this problem, what's the solution that I put in place? What would I do to fix it? What's my part that I will play in fixing this problem? And write it down. Write the solution down. And once you've got that solution, you kind of think, okay, that's what I need to do. Then what I want you to think about is, when you implement that solution and that problem goes away, what are those tasks that you've had to complete in order to implement that solution? So we've got the problem, we've got the solution, then we've got the tasks. So break down the solution into a number of step tasks. Yeah? Because this solution that you put in place, it might take a month, it might take a week, it might take 3 months to put in place. Break it down to tasks, so every single week you feel like you're making progress. Yeah? And once you've done that, think about what the positive outcome is of you implementing that solution and overcoming that problem. What's the positive impact for you? What's the positive impact for those close to you? Your friends, family, customers, employees? What's the positive impact for the wider world? You know, so again, we've got this process, we've got this framework. What's the problem? What's the solution? What are the tasks that make up that solution to put in place? What's the positive outcome associated with it? What positive outcome will be there for you, your family, those close to you, and the wider world from you implementing those tasks and completing those things and implementing that solution against that problem? What is it? And when you've got this stuff written down, you've kind of got a plan. You've got a plan to bulldoze the main thing. And once you've done that, then you can start looking at the rest. Because you can't focus on your customers, your employees, your directors, your family. You can't do everything all at once, especially when you're overwhelmed. You've got to pick the one thing, the big thing, the fairy on the Christmas tree that everything else hangs off. Pick that one thing, work it out. What's the problem? What's the solution? What are the action steps? What's the positive outcome? Big things. And what happens when you've done that, you kind of go from this weird place. I know where I want to be in the future. I'm at point A now, I want to be over here. But you're in this endless cycle of just going round and round and up and down and all over the place. And all this stuff's attacking you from every angle. And once you get clarity on this stuff, you start to move forward. You start to make steps forward to that place you want to be in the future. You know, building a business that works for you, a legacy business. Building, you know, pride and self-belief and confidence. All that sort of stuff. And that's kind of how it works. And what I will do is once you've done the main thing, I'd start to look at all the other bits and pieces that hang off that Christmas tree that are creating that overwhelm, and use the same framework. What's the problem? What's the solution? What's the action steps? What's the positive outcome? Yeah? And that's going to, even if you don't do anything to fix these problems, just do that for each of your problems. Use that framework and you've got an action plan for each. All you need to do is simply prioritise. So that's it, guys. That's how I tackle overwhelm. It's how I did it. Years ago, we understood what the problem was, what the solution was, what the positive impact, the action steps. We did it. It involves you doing the work. So you've got the framework. Now we've got this thing, this overwhelm nailed down. You know, so it's a good one. That I liked doing a bit of research there and understanding how I work in this area, and hopefully it's helped you guys. So this is Sherpa Guidance episode 29. I'm Andy Henderson, your Sherpa Guide, on a mission to impact the lives of 25,000 people, business owners, in the next 10 years and making progress. A couple of weeks ago, I felt overwhelmed. I couldn't really put my finger on it until I started writing this stuff down. I picked the main thing that's the main thing. I bulldozed it. And then, you know, for the last couple of weeks, I've been absolutely bang on. So, listen guys, I'm Andy Henderson, your Sherpa Guide, and that was a pleasure to deliver. As always, you'll see me live on Friday when I talk about, you know, how I'm using this stuff in my own business and a bit of a reflection section. But for now, it's goodbye from me, and just remember guys, you're just one step away.